I'm tired. I was out late Saturday, I was late last night. Exhausted. Say that again? Oh, yeah. He closed the place down, but he has all night. That's what you talking about Saturday. Was that you? Well, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, who is that guy? Because I couldn't place you. And Ken, who's that guy? He says, I don't know who that guy is. I think, well, I don't know who he is. You know, it's sort of thinking, okay. Yes.
He's very active in the VFW, so
Yeah. I didn't realize he owned it also. Last time. Because I met him, he owns Tim Hortons in Madawaska. Yeah, that's where I met him, was up in Madawaska on the project. Oh, okay.
All right. I'd like to call the Monday, February 10th City Council meeting to order. Roll call. All councilors are present. Deputy Mayor Smith, would you like to do the invocation this evening?
My pleasure. Everybody would please join me and be in the attitude of prayer. We pray for our country at all times, that all citizens are safe, healthy, and happy. We pray for wisdom for all those who guide and govern. Help this government body in every situation to know and to do the things that are right and just, with soundness of judgment in making vital decisions. We pray for the peacemakers, that the holy life-giving spirit may ever dwell in their hearts, and the barriers of fear, suspicion, and hatred may fall. This we pray to the Holy Father. Amen.
Amen. If everyone would join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is our declaration of any conflict of interest. Is there any counselor who would like to declare a conflict of interest this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to public forum. Item number 5 on the agenda. Just a reminder to everybody, if you would like to speak for public forum, we welcome that. You will be limited to 5 minutes, and please keep in mind this is for you to share your thoughts or views, but not necessarily time for counselors to answer any questions that you may have. That said, is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak? And Danielle, you didn't get anything written in? Okay. Item number 6 on the agenda is bid openings, awards, and appointments. And so the first item on the agenda under this would be appointments to boards and committees, and we do have to appoint some members to the Caribou Congregate Housing Board. This is on page 2 of your packet. So we do need 2 people that are selected by the City Council to sit on the Caribou Congregate Housing Development Board. So right now we do have 2 members from the city, and that would be Lisa Plord and Danielle Brissette. Does anybody have any wishes moving forward on appointments for this?
Be sure to see the last line. So it is being requested that the City Council reappoint Lisa Plord, Housing Director, and to appoint Heather Bartlett, HCV occupancy specialist, to replace Danielle Brissett to the Caribou Congregate Housing Development Corporation Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Bagley?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Lovewell?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Terrio?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Congratulations, Lisa. Item number 6B has to do with the MCA Connectivity Hub Grant, and Peter Baldwin has been here to talk about this with us in the past, and I invite you to come up and share any new information you may have.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, Mayor Thompson. Yes, last city council meeting, I was here for the abatement bid for the library to begin construction, to start moving forward. We submitted another bid at the same time for getting an architect slash engineer to begin doing the actual design services portion of this. The bid itself also included having him stay on as project manager throughout this project, as this is an almost $2 million project and renovation for the library. We received one proposal, which was opened last Friday. The proposal is in your packets, as well as the addendum that was written. The addendum changed some of the wording for how soon work would start, as well as pushing the end date of the bid process to quarterly bid, to give the architects more time, who had more recently found out about the 14th date. The bid that we received was from Haley Ward. I've included a couple of the relevant pages of the bid itself, rather than copying the entire booklet. They broke it down into different sections, including building administration and contract administration going forward with an estimate of $32,000, which I did include in the total amount, which was $166,000, $166,600 in total for their entire bid, which does put us about $20,000 under budget for what we had originally estimated that this would be.
Great. Okay, what are the wishes of the council?
I make a motion that we accept this bid as is and move forward.
A second. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Just pleased to see that we have a construction manager put into this contract, so that takes
Really good.
some of the work off the city staff.
Yes, this is something that's kind of new to me, and while I can learn as we go, I don't want to have to learn that fast. And I'd rather rely on somebody else to already sort of know to guide me through it. So,
Perfect. Go ahead.
All right. Bagley?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. Lovewell? Aye. Smith?
Aye.
Terrio? Aye. Watson?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 is public hearings and possible action items, and we do have a public hearing on the agenda this evening, and this pertains to the Community Development Block Grant for County Ag. This is on page 18 of your packet. Penny, do you want to share a little bit of background? I can open the public hearing first if you'd like. And then, okay. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:06 p.m.
So, local business County Ag has been working with Northern Maine Development Commission and has qualified to apply for a community development block grant to grow their Caribou business. With a community development block grant from the state of Maine, it is the city of Caribou that applies on their behalf and administers the grant. However, no municipal funds are used as a match for this grant or to fund any part of the project. It has been a few years since the City of Caribou administered a Community Development Block Grant Program grant, so there is a lot of community paperwork that needs to be done. This is not specific to the County Ag application. It is about the city's preparation for this or any other Community Development Block Grant award. A public hearing is required as part of the application process, and we have Mrs. Netto here, the owner of County Ag, and so she would be available to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:08 p.m. Okay. I think we need to go down through and look at all of these suggested actions as well, and I think we can probably move the slate on these as long as everyone's comfortable with that.
Can I ask a question of the manager first? Do you have a sense for what type of, I guess, man hours it's going to take to administer this in relation to, I mean, you've done these before, and so you're used to it. Are you willing to take that on with the staff that we currently have?
Yes, it doesn't take, NMDC also helps us with this.
Okay.
This isn't like we're going this alone at all. A lot of it is incumbent on the owners to provide paperwork. We do a lot of grant administration, so we're getting better at it. Our finance staff, of course, they have to approve requisitions. They've been to training for that. So
Okay,
it's just
good.
something, I guess, in the workflow, just, you know.
Well, I noticed that the amount of grant isn't like crazy big.
Mhm.
You know, what, I can't remember the number, 30-something thousand or something,
Yeah.
so. I just didn't
But it's
want.
big to a business who's trying to expand, you
Yeah.
know.
I wanted to make sure that our workload doesn't, you know, overwhelm staff.
I think that the most work was probably getting to this point,
Yeah.
because it has been a few years since we've done one of these, and things have changed in Augusta, and so that's why we have to pass this equal employment opportunity resolution, fair housing resolution, residential displacement plan, community development block grant standards of conduct, a section 504 plan, which literally Karen and I worked on a Sunday afternoon for 3 hours. I mean, it's that, but this is not specific to their grant. This is, you know, for
Any grant.
anything that the city would apply for. And, you know, we have talked in the past about, you know, maybe applying for a CDBG grant for economic development, or developing something at Birdseye or something when we're at that point. So all of this paperwork will be done. And again, all of that heavy lifting was for the city. It wasn't specific to this grant at all. A lot of that's been done by the owner and by NMDC.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe more answer than you wanted, but.
No, great answer.
Never too much of an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to move the slate then.
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Bagley?
Aye?
Kelly? Aye. Lovewell?
Aye.
Smith?
All right.
Terrio?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
Okay, item number 8 is reports by staff and committees, and 8A is an update from the Public Safety Building Committee. So just a brief update, we have been meeting as a committee weekly for the past several weeks, meeting with artifacts, and so we've been looking now more closely at different facets of the design process. So we've looked at the floor plan, and talked a lot about some minor adjustments that could be made with that to make things a little bit more efficient in terms of being able to carry materials through the building a little bit more readily. We've talked about wall options and partition options. We've talked about flooring. We've talked about ceilings. So we're making really great progress. The construction documents are due to be ready on March 15th, and I think that they will definitely have things done by then. They're really moving quickly. They've brought on some extra people to help, and things are looking pretty good.
So there's a review of their design development package that was due on the 27th, and we last heard that they were going to be delivered the 3rd, and so I expected that we would have that approval tonight. Do we have a new date for when we are going to be approving the design development package?
So what they have and what we've agreed to with them is that they will have everything to us by March 15th.
So we're going to skip the design review into construction documents. Okay, I object to that. Those reviews are key decision points for the city, and I think we need to follow the contract closely and do those reviews as required, and do a course check, you know, with the full council just to make sure that things are going forward. Otherwise, they could be spending money, you know, on construction document preparation that would have to go back later and change, so.
I think if you take a look at some of the emails that Manager Thompson sent, talking about kind of the roles and responsibilities after she reached out to the city attorney, I think that we felt that it was okay to be moving forward.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a problem with that, because I don't agree with that proposal that we skip that. I think that's an important part of our job.
So are you unhappy with the design where it is right now?
I'm unhappy with the process. They've gotten behind a lot, and we see them now getting close to getting behind again, and I want to make sure that we, as a full council, have the opportunity to review the plan, ask questions, suggest changes if needed, and then move forward with confidence into the next phase. That's what the review is designed to do, and I think it's ill-advised to skip that review.
Well, I think you've received all of the documents that Artifacts has moved forward, so you should have copies of everything. So I don't think that there's any question as to what they've done and what we have so far. So that's why I ask, are you unhappy with the plans as they are?
And I'll repeat, I'm unhappy with the process. We need to follow the contract. So,
There's a lot of time between
Oh,
February.
excuse me, ma'am. This is a council discussion.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I just.
Anybody else have anything further?
This is a new guide thing, okay? Please understand. And it has nothing to do with this. It does, but it doesn't. We've all been watching the news lately, and Washington DC is crazy. And there's a lot of things that's happening. Is there a way, and again, purely as a new guide, can we firm up, I guess for me, and that can be done offline through an email, I'm very happy with that, how we sit monetarily, because with the programs I'm involved with, not with the city council, there is a lot of grants being torn to shreds. And I would like to make sure that we have what we need to move forward. I would be so very afraid that we commit ourselves to something and then something's not there. Is that unrealistic?
It's not. We can't apply for grants until the bid process takes place, and until we have a bid back, this conversation's almost kind of, I don't want to say pointless, but it is a little bit, because we need to get that
Right.
dollar amount back from them. But from all indication we have, and from the documents you've all received, they are right at budget. They're doing a good job at keeping it at budget. So now we have to wait until the bids come back. So we have to get to that step.
That's not, I agree, and the one I'm talking about is when Susan Collins put forth her 2.5, right? Is that ours?
Yes.
So we already have control and that's locked down somewhere. And it's not going back. There's no way anybody can reach down and take this away from us.
I had the same question. Do we have that in the bank? Has that money been transferred and in our accounts?
It's not how they do it.
That isn't how they do it.
That's
You
what I thought.
you have to
So-
get reimbursed.
Yeah,
That's how
so
that
they,
But
so they could turn that spigot off at any time.
Well,
Well, it's
see,
been guaranteed to us,
Yeah,
so.
it was
Right.
through the '23 budget is when it was earmarked.
okay,
Yeah.
because the concern I have is, and we're all watching the news, but I'm also working with some other grants and that were promised, and because of the affiliation of the government organizations that had written or funded or provided them, they're being told that A, they're suspended, or B, they're being pulled back. And I would really hate for us to be finally getting somewheres, and then all of a sudden, we don't have something. That would be very, so I agreed. It's out of place here. Thank you for putting up with it, but it's one of those questions that just jump at you, where is it and are we okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the 24th, they have scheduled a webinar for people
Okay.
to tell us,
Mm-hmm.
everything to do with the things through the congressionally directed spending requests that have
Right,
been.
I knew that was coming. There's some other organizations have different dates for different programs. programs and stuff.
Yeah, so ours is on 14.
And I will be honest with you, I've already sat through 2, and they're remarkably ruthless. And I just don't want us to be in that boat. So, thank you.
So is there a way that we can fit in a review and approval on the 24th for a meeting on the 24th?
I don't believe that there's anything that needs to be
There's
approved
nothing
by
that
the
needs to
full
be approved.
council.
Well, all power and authority is vested in the city council to make decisions like this. And so I, for one, don't want to give up my vote for oversight on this project to a committee and the manager to make decisions on behalf of the city. We need to do this. I mean, our charter requires it, and that's our duty, so I really think we need to schedule a review and approval of this package.
In my opinion, I think that you're wasting valuable time
How so?
because we need to continue moving forward with this project.
Move forward with caution, with deliberation, and make sure we're doing our jobs. So we still, and the other point that I see that they've expanded the footprint somewhat, and I'd like to know what their updated cost estimate is, because we haven't had a cost estimate since the original schematic design that we approved back in December.
Yeah, and it hasn't changed.
I haven't seen anything to say that it hasn't changed. They've expanded the
I
footprint.
have a question for you. You're invited to come to the meetings when we have them on Friday afternoons, and I haven't seen you attend one. You could learn a lot from coming to the meetings.
Yeah, I've not been able to make them. But the question stands, so have we received an update on the cost estimate?
Cost
How do you know
The
it's
cost
the
hasn't
same?
changed.
Cost hasn't changed.
How do you know that?
They have said that it hasn't changed.
Okay.
We haven't got like the multi-page breakdown like you're talking about
Mhm.
from a cost estimator, no. But they've said that there hasn't been anything like substantial for them that has changed.
So we were already over budget at the schematic design stage of 10.4. And if we're expanding our footprint and now starting to get more detail on the exact materials we're going to use and all of that, then we need to keep an eye on that cost estimate, not just take their word that the cost hasn't increased.
Part of the reason
That's
that
why
they've
these
reconfigured
checkpoints-
some of the things is to actually make it more cost effective
That's why
in the
these
way that the
checkpoints-
materials are being put through the building.
And that's why these checkpoints are put in place, for us to be
You
able
also
to
have a
see
committee
all
and
that
an architect and
information.
a city manager who are all working
And
towards
I'll
this
say
project.
again, the power and authority is vested in the city council. and
I
that's
think the city
not-
attorney also mentioned that
the city
perhaps,
The city attorney did not rule on that, and nor
there
nor
was
have
an
I
opinion
accepted
given.
any
Well, that's
such
why I sent an
opinion.
email.
And the opinion that I saw from the attorney didn't say anything about who has the authority, all right, to make decisions on behalf of the city, and something was not right
Yeah,
about that email.
did.
Oh, it
I think
did?
it kind of did.
I don't think it did.
To let us do
Our jobs.
We are not.
What does that mean?
That means let the
committee do their
committee and
jobs
the architects and the city manager do their jobs.
for what they are
because
appointed for.
There's no sense in having an architect and a committee and a city manager if they're not going to be able to help make the decisions on the project.
To accomplish this, Rick suggests that the city council should let the architect do their job and also allow the public safety building committee to do what it has been tasked with. It doesn't say
correct.
anything about assigning the authority of the committee
You can
or
ask
the
him for
manager
clarification.
to approve.
Dan, we haven't approved
design.
anything.
We've approved
Until
it.
they come back with a bid amount that needs to be approved to move forward, that's what needs approval, is the bid amount that comes in. And then we say, yes, we can afford to pay for this, or no, we cannot.
I would recommend that you review the contract again. Okay, all of these contracts are set up the same way. You have 3 phases with reviews, checkpoints, and approvals along the way.
The approvals
need
do
to
not
follow
have to
that.
be a full council vote.
It most certainly does.
It most certainly does not.
Not until.
Not
Power
until the
is
bid.
vest- The power is vested in this body. It cannot be delegated. It can't be self-assigned or delegated. We have the responsibility and the duty to do that. And so I think we need to stick with that. And I'm asking that we get that final package to us so that we can review it on the 24th.
If it's ready, we can do it. If it's not ready, we don't have any.
And we told them that as long as they had all the materials to us by the 15th, that we would be happy with that, and it's in email, it's in writing.
That was
And we did
not a
sign
decision that the committee should have
as
made.
part of, you voted in
You
December.
voted on it.
To an amended contract.
The amended contract only added money. to
No,
finish
it
out
also
the
added the date
design.
of March 15th on it.
For the, right, for the, that's fine, but we still have an interim review of the design development package that
No,
we need to do.
I put this on the list. I will speak with Rick. I will get back to everyone.
I'm satisfied with that. I think we really need to get determination of that, because I don't like the direction this is going.
Noted.
I don't agree with the proposal for the committee to begin making decisions on this and cutting out the rest of the council.
making decisions on the ceiling tiles and the flooring, or?
No, on, like I've been talking about, the design development package is formal delivery under contract that we're required to review and approve as a body.
They will, you will.
You will.
When it's finished.
done.
When it's done.
It's not finished.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, so when are we going to get the design development package
Everything will be ready
delivered?
by March
By March
15th,
15th.
2025.
You can't just skip over a design phase review like that. I don't agree with that.
I'm sorry you don't agree with that. Yes.
So, if this is due to the committee, when can the council expect it? Can we expect it reasonably at the March 17th meeting?
Yes.
The design proposal, not the bid.
Well, there's been a request to see about the design development on the 24th, so I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just-
But the construction documents, if we get them on the 15th, we could have them for the 17th.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of work, and that's the major expense, is producing those construction documents. And we want to make sure that we're happy with the design development phase before we allow them to go in and spend all that money doing construction documents that we may have to go and redo because we're not happy with the design.
You get a vote when everything is ready. You
And
don't
I'm
just
saying-
go ahead and get it.
I understand that, but we need to have a vote at the interim review, which we did in December for the schematic design. And we're obligated to do it again for the design development phase, and again after the construction documents, and then it goes to bid. That's the
Don't
way,
believe
that's the way it
that's
works, and
the
that's the
way
way
it
we do
works.
business. So I don't like the direction that the committee is trying to take this. But thank you, Penny. If you can check into that,
Yep.
I'd appreciate that very much, and we'll see what we can do with that. Thank you.
All right. Item number 8B, the Capital Expense Budget Committee.
Yes, an update on that. We had an opportunity to meet a couple of weeks ago. We probably in the rough draft phase. Probably one more meeting, hopefully. It's convenient. Hopefully in the next week or so we can get that down. I don't really want to give out. We have details, but it's a rough draft. And if anybody has any particular questions, I guess. in the meeting. And then we'll bring that to the council for a proposal for, to adopt, reject, amend at that point, like we do. Because as we know, we're going to speak about later, there's three parts. We can either vote on those separately or individual, or move this slide. So that's where we're at on that. Does anybody have any questions, Jonah? We've spent about, how long have we spent? 3 hours?
Yeah.
So, it worked out well, so we can get that.
I've got some other information I've got to get to you before we
Okay,
meet
we got-
again,
we
but
just, do
I'll
some
send out an
fine-tuning-
email and
Fine
see
tuning
if we
for,
can.
for a final draft, so to speak.
Yep.
And we'll get an email going between us here or something when it's convenient. And I don't know if we got sent the information or not from the last.
Yes.
You did get those?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
I did.
Okay, so you're up to speed with us.
Yes, I
That's
am.
Thank you.
perfect. Yep, thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Nope.
That's all I have on that.
But all of the capital requests are being brought to the council. So, I mean, you're aware of everything, it's just the capital committee is kind of working on you know, how to make it fit into what we can afford for a recommendation.
Yeah.
But as Deputy Mayor has said, the council can approve the recommendation, they can deny the recommendation, or they can amend it. So,
And hopefully we can have that
Yeah.
before our March
Right, you have-
17th meeting.
well,
Or-
we're having a meeting on the 24th. So,
Oh, we can,
yeah.
if we can,
I'm sure we'll have it before then.
before that, yeah, absolutely, I'm fine with that. And then it gives us time.
Because we have to have everything finalized. It's like I have to send everything out by the 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything further on that? Okay, item number 8C is the city manager's report.
So tonight, the city manager's report will focus on the other budgets which have an impact on the tax bill that will go out this summer. I have in your packets an article that was in the Maine Municipal Association Legislative Bulletin from their January 31st edition, which had an excellent article entitled Taxes, Taxes, Read All About It, and it's in your packet. I'm not going to read it to you, but sometime read it. It really answers a lot of questions. It's really a great, well-written article. So I also have in your packet on page 50 a one-pager about how Article 14 of the RSU 39 warrant impacts our municipal tax bill. So online, anyone can look at it. The State of Maine Department of Education discloses school spending by each school system. So you can look up what your school system is getting for state funding on a form that's called the ED 279. And in state statute, that regulates the information on that, but also when the school writes their budget warrant, it has to go by a set form too, so that everyone knows where to look for things. So there's no place to hide things. So all education budgets have to be organized and presented the same way. So one source of revenue for schools is characterized as additional local funds, if any, approved pursuant to, and then it gives the state statute. So if we go to page 4, because again, all of these are, so even if someone is watching and they're in a different school system, if it's in Maine, they're all organized the same. So page 4 of last year's ED 279 talked about what we would have to raise in Caribou for our school budget. And so looking at our form from last year, Caribou would be expected to raise $2,707,911. On the ED 279 for 2026, that number is a little less than that. And you can also view, when it gets closer to budget time, the budget book for the current year. Right now, the one for last year is still on there. You can look on page 16. Article 12 will tell you it's got the exact same number. So from the ED 279 and then looking at the school budget warrant, Article 12 has the same number. Caribou needs to raise $2,707,911 so that they can qualify for that state aid to education. So if we raise less than that, then we wouldn't qualify for all that state aid. So that's what we have to pass. We have to pass Article 12 if we're going to get state aid to education. Looking at their budget book on page 17, you can see that it was recommended that Caribou raise an additional $2,429,561 with Article 14. Now, at the district budget meeting, I'm trying to remember, were you there, Councilor Bagley, at the district budget meeting?
I was.
I thought so, okay. So at the budget meeting, there was a motion from the floor to add $90,000. So Article 14 became $2,519,561. So that's what passed. So when everyone came to vote, Caribou has never turned down their school budget. The closest they've come that I remember was last year. There were 468 yes, 419 no, and 7 blank. So I do have here in your packet, just from various sources I have from my time spent here, especially in assessing, because of course in the assessor's office, these are numbers that we need to build your tax rate calculator. So we need to know, what do we need to raise for the RSU? What do we need to raise from the county? How much money are we getting from revenue sharing? All of these things that the assessing office, the manager's office, and the finance office have to work together so that I can bring to you a mill rate calculator that will say, if we're going to pass everything, this is what your mill rate's going to be. And of course, we can remember that last year, when I brought that to you, the council said, okay, we're going to have to put the brakes on here. Our citizens can't bear this increase in all these budgets. We're going to have to go back and cut. And the council was able to cut from the municipal budget because, as I'm trying to illustrate here, the city council has no control over the RSU portion of the bill, and you have no control over the county portion of the bill. All you can control is, like last year it was 41% of the bill, which was the municipal funding. Last year the school was 49%, the county was 10%, and the council has no control over those. However, except that you have 7 votes when you go to vote on the school budget. That's it. Just like everyone else who lives in Caribou, you have 1 vote. And I think that sometimes the council is vilified in the community by sending out tax bills that people feel that, well, I can't afford this. Well, the city council is only responsible for the municipal budget. City council can't control the RSU and they can't control the county. So that's why I felt it was important tonight to kind of talk about those other 2 pieces, because we're talking about the municipal budget. But again, the municipal budget last year was 41%. It wasn't, you don't have control over the other parts of the budget. So because I have in the books from years past and the warrant, you can see that over the years, Article 14, which is this additional money that is raised, has gone up a lot. And the year 2019 to 2020, it was $444,000. Now we're up to $2.5 million. So I don't know what to expect from this year. I know they're working on their budget now, but I just think it's important for the citizens to know that the city council has no control. But they do, because they can go to budget meetings, they can go vote. But the city council is limited to your 7 votes on June 10th. So the county budget last year was 10% of our tax bills that went out. And so the Aroostook County budget is apportioned to all areas of Aroostook, and that goes by equalized state valuation. So it includes amounts to operate county government operations, and that's a distinct and separate budget from the county jail budget. So Caribou is 3rd behind the unorganized townships in the city of Prescott for the county tax. So this budget, the county commissioners and the county finance committee work to prepare and approve the budgets. Last year, the county transitioned to a fiscal year. So what that meant for us was that we got 1 bill for 6 months of tax and a bill for 12 months of tax. The 12-month bill had to be paid at a regular time. The 6-month bill we're able to pay over 3 years at no interest, because they felt it was important for them to transition to the same fiscal year as their jail budget, the state budget, and items like that. So again, the assessors for the city must raise the amount that's billed to the city by the county. The Caribou City Council has no authority to amend the budget approved by the county. They send us a bill, we pay the bill. End of story. So there is information online about the county tax bill, county tax information, the county finance committee. We have someone who is elected in Caribou to the finance committee, and he does represent our interests. I've gone to their budget meetings. Mr. Fortier does a great job of advocating for Caribou. And so currently the county commissioners have 2 budget work sessions scheduled, and the finance committee has 1 budget work session scheduled. And the public hearing on their budget is scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th. So back to math, and I know it's everyone's favorite. So when we're looking at calculating the tax bill, and I know everyone loves assessing as much as I do, so that's why we're going to talk about it. So we have to take the 3 amounts, the amount from the municipality, the amount from the school, and the amount from the county. And that's what we have to raise. Then we have to divide by our taxable valuation. So that's real estate and personal property. And when I say taxable valuation, it's because we have some exempt valuation that the state will then reimburse us for a portion of that lost revenue. And that all of that is figured into our tax rate calculator. So when we put in all of those numbers, we know, okay, we're going to get this much back if our mill rate is this amount, so this is what we need to raise. And so we take that taxable valuation, we divide it by what we need for what we've approved for spending, and that comes to our mill rate. So last year our mill rate was 21.4. A mill is just 1/1000th of valuation. So for every $474,701.50 that we spent last year, that's a mill. So when we talk in terms of increasing the budget, so if our spending goes up, and again, taxable valuation is going to change every year, but last year it was $474,000. So as we're looking at the budget, when we say something is going to cost us $474,000 more, in your mind you can think, okay, that's going to raise our mill rate by 1. And that's my TED Talk.
Great.
Thank you.
Just a quick
Yeah,
question.
that's
Yeah, you get the links here for the county. I had a couple questions, but I can look those up because you have their button when their
Yep.
public hearing is and that sort of thing. Because
Yep.
when they went to the fiscal year, they give us the bill sometime in June. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
And they're very good about, they're excellent at communicating. Like, they will send me a copy of their budget. They will let me know when their meetings are. I'm a person who always has a lot of questions, and they're very good about following up, answering my questions, and I appreciate that very much. Our county administrator came and gave an excellent presentation last year about the services provided by the county. And I know that if we have any questions, he's happy to answer those for us.
That's all I have. Or one question I had.
Okay. Item number 9 is new business ordinances and resolutions, and 9A is the 2025 municipal budget part 2, I like to call that. So we will be hearing from a few departments this evening. And this starts on pages 52 and 53 of your packet. But we'll be hearing from Department 35 this evening. Chief Saucier is here for the police department. We'll also be hearing from Department 20, which is general assistance, and we'll be hearing from our city clerk, Danielle Brissette, and Manager Thompson will present the remaining departments. Chief, I think you're up.
I think you all have a little packet there that was with your packets that has the police chief, and he does have some notes here about changes. So.
How are you?
Yes, I read it earlier.
Packet that was provided just this evening? Or?
No,
Oh,
it was
okay.
when you would have picked it up. Like it should be
In the back,
about like this.
staple?
Yep,
Oh, there it is.
Right here, Penny.
that's it.
Sorry.
That's it. It's right here.
We do not have one.
You don't. Here, you have that.
Yes, this one here.
this?
Is this one here now?
Let's see.
This one right here. Yeah, that's on fire. You're welcome.
The one that starts 350101
Okay,
salaries.
that's what I was looking at too.
And that's
Got it.
also what, on page 66 in here?
I don't know, looking through the report. 66.
Okay.
It's the blue papers.
Yeah, I think we're all set. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Come on, you know, it's hard.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Manager Thompson. This being my first budget process, I need a couple seconds for a soapbox moment. So, several of the new chiefs seminar and trainings I've been to, a huge discussion was certain items being in departments' budgets. Things that we don't have any control over, whether it be some type of insurance, workman's comp, social security, state and city retirement. So I'm gonna stick to that. I don't think it should be in our department budget, but that's just my soapbox moment. Now we'll get to the fun stuff. Right to business, I think I'll probably start with the expenses part of things and the additions that I'm requesting for our department. So 3501-001, salaries obviously is a huge thing. And as you can see, it went up 45.9%. That's based on the pay increase as well as the union contracts and such. I will make mention that the 2025 salary burden does include a lieutenant position that I requested. I mean, I think it's important for us to have a lieutenant position. I think it's important for us to have chain of command. Right now, you have the chief, you have your 4 sergeants, and then you have your patrolman. It's really difficult to monitor or even kind of guide our sergeants. If we had a lieutenant, that would make things a lot easier. And there would be a flow that everybody would understand. Your patrolman's going to go to your sergeant's going to go to your lieutenant, and God forbid, if it's huge enough, your lieutenant's going to come to the chief. So I think it's a very important aspect of a police department, and I realize that it's quite a cost. They don't come cheap. To get a very, very good qualified person in that position, it'll be expensive. I understand that. I'm going to kind of transition that into staying with salaries. Thank you to the council for allowing our department to have 2 dispatchers. We have 2 very qualified dispatchers right now. I do think we need 2 more to be able to run efficiently. We're down to 11 officers and 2 dispatchers, and it's still creating a lot of overtime. And I think the overtime budget could be slashed quite a bit if we even got 1 more officer and 2 more dispatchers. That would definitely help us out. Just real quick numbers on overtime. For January, we had 19 open shifts, and 12 of those shifts were filled. Our highest paid officer at time and a half is going to make $66.50 an hour. You multiply that by 12 hours, and that's 1 day. That's a good day for him or her. Okay. In January, we spent $6,630 in overtime, just in 1 month. February, we're halfway through February, and we're already at $5,080. So I think with the help of dispatchers and 1 more officer position, our overtime budget could be a lot less than the 85 that we're asking.
Chief, if I may, with the restructuring, of course, you're coming here, right? How is your hiring proposals? Are you noticing that there's people who are interested, or or does it seem to, I'm looking at your work pool. You say you want to go to this, one of the problems that you run into is there people who are available?
Yep.
Is that, one of the things, I understand the concept, it makes perfect sense, hire more people, lose the overtime. Do you have candidates
We
that we can, okay,
We do.
thank you.
I've had several dispatch positions that people have applied for, and I basically told them that I filled both of my positions, but I will keep your application with me, and should we be able to have a couple more, I would take those applications out. I also do have a couple officers that are looking to come back to Caribou.
Okay.
One of them I definitely have to reach out to at some point this week. And
Would you be looking to, and I'm just trying to get a sense of where you're going, would you be looking at promoting from within for a lieutenant, or are you looking at, moving outside? I mean, I don't know what you're thinking,
right,
but there's benefits to both, I guess, at
there
this
is,
point.
and that's definitely a topic of discussion that, forgive me, I feel we should probably have an executive session on.
No,
it.
that's fine, that's fine.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely.
That's just my opinion. I just wanted to bring out to the council that that's what I'm looking for. So when you see the 2025 salary burden, and you see the lieutenant position, you don't say, well, he never told us that he was looking for this.
No. No, that was not my intention when I asked that question, and I agree with the executive session part. Curiosity kills the cat there, so thank you.
But you're right, either way, internally or hiring from out, if you get the right person, then it benefits the department and the city.
Well, it's just thinking that it's always easier to hire a trained person as to undergo the rigmarole of trying to train someone.
Absolutely.
There's a cost savings incurred with that also.
Could you just clarify again, what is our current 2024 funded staff? What is the difference between 2024 funded staff and your proposed 2025 funded staff? I'm not getting my head around that yet.
So we would have. A
What's
total-
funded now?
What's funded right now would be, so we have two vacant slots, but they're still in your 2025 burden.
Right, but they were in 2024 as
They were in
well.
2024.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the difference between 24 and 25 in terms of staff. You said you want to add a lieutenant, you want to add 2 officers, you want to add 2 dispatchers.
One officer.
One officer and 2 dispatchers
1 officer and 2 dispatchers.
and a lieutenant.
And a lieutenant.
I got the lieutenant part. Our department would need 4 more full-time officers. 2 would replace the 2 officers we have lost, and 2 more to get our staff to full. That's
So-
4. Well, that's 2 additional.
Correct.
Sorry I'm so dumb on this. I'm not getting what
So-
you're trying to
And
promote
I
here.
get your question, but your question is difficult to answer because we lose people all the time. So I can't give you a number of 2024 because January, we probably had 10 officers. February, maybe we hired a couple.
Yeah,
Okay?
I'm talking about the money, the staffing, the funding for the staffing.
Are you looking at A?
Would we accommodate, to accommodate how many officers, how many dispatchers?
Are you including the lieutenant in those 2 positions? Is that what it was? And A, under 3501-001? When you say that you need 2 to replace and then 2
One would be
additional?
lieutenant.
One would be the lieutenant, that's.
Two
does that
officers,
answer?
one would be a lieutenant, 2 dispatchers.
Yeah.
So that would put the PD at
I'm with you
One,
now.
okay,
at
yeah,
12
yeah.
officers.
I'm with you, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought. Maybe you
We
were.
were talking past each other.
Mhm.
I
No,
wasn't,
that's okay.
I wasn't following you. but-
I wasn't following. But now we're in sync. Thank you very much. Okay. So 2 officers, one of whom is a lieutenant, 2 dispatchers.
Correct.
That's the difference you're asking for.
Correct.
Thank you.
The next increase that we're asking of, it would be the travel expense from $3,000 to $4,000 for the 2025 burden. And that's basically for the officers going to the academy. We have one officer currently in the academy. Every Sunday, he spends the night at the Fireside Inn, so he doesn't have to travel from Caribou all the way to Waterville, and it's $75 a night. We have 2 more officers that are now trained, waiting to go to the academy. The hope is in August of this year, we can send both of them to the academy. And that would give us all of our officers certified through the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. And that brings us to another big one, the training budget. And I'm asking it to go from $33,000 to $43,000. And again, that's, it costs $3,500 per cadet to go to the academy, and that's just the academy bill. That really doesn't include, again, it doesn't include it. If we don't have a city vehicle available, then that cadet's going to use his or her vehicle. And so we reimburse them for the mileage and fuel costs. The remainder, if we could send all 3 to the academy, would be great. And the remainder, I'm sure, is going to be, training is super important. And I don't think there's going to be anything left out of this budget, out of this line, for training. I think that all of our guys and gals should be going to training frequently.
Are we spending the training funds that have been allocated? Because I know that's been a problem in the past.
It has been a problem in the past, and when I started in July, there was still quite a bit left.
Yeah.
But again, we were really short-staffed, so it was hard to say, well, I could send you and you, but I'm going to make the schedule short. So, it's a juggling act.
Understood.
But I believe this year, we'll spend all of that. $35,01017, communication. After looking at this a little bit closer, I may be able, our department may be able to decrease this a little bit. I think we could probably shave off $2,000 on it maybe, and bring it to $3,000. I just spent a little bit more time with it today, trying to figure out, because $5,000 does seem pretty hefty for this. And quite honestly, 2024, we only used, $1,823. So I think we could shave some of that off.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
If we go back a page?
Yep.
On the car allowance, it went from 4,300 to 0, but it states that you still need a cruiser. So is there a reason that you don't have an allowance for that?
I have a take-home car.
So you just use one
I
of
just used
say
a
if there's,
cruiser.
you're just not billing out mileage or something on your own car or something? Was that originally, is that what that money was in there for?
That was originally, the previous chief would have his vehicle.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out why that went.
He would use his personal
It's
vehicle to
personal
get a
vehicle. You're
mileage
using
allowance.
it. I got you. Okay, I got you. Thank you very much for clarifying.
I just think it's important to have a cruiser to respond to emergencies. I think my first week I went out 3 different times, so.
Makes sense.
We're on that, just a quick question on the training one. I mean, that's kind of I understand, that can kind of be a variable too, depending on who you hire. Right? If you hire everybody that's got a blue pen, then you might not necessarily need all that training.
Correct.
So, but I mean, it needs to be built in if you're assuming that you're gonna send three cadets.
Yes, sir. One's in there, and hopefully 2 in August. The other 2 officers that I want to speak with, one is already blue pin, and the other would have to be fully trained. So
there's kind of a variable there on that.
So Chief, can you also talk about some of the other trainings that are offered at the Criminal Justice Academy that your officers would want to go to also? It's more advanced training, and our K-9 officer, he has to do training too with
our
K-9 officer ACE.
Ace has to do training. Unfortunately, the handler is out right now on sick leave, but Ace is still getting trained. There's also a lot of training that our guys want to go to that will assist other agencies because it'll make them instructors, mark instructors, use of force instructors. There's OUI instructors. We have one FTO. I would like to get another FTO because it's such a burden on that one FTO. He's done 12 weeks with a new cadet, and then he's maybe gets a week break, and then he starts another 12 weeks. It's quite a burden.
Can you just tell them what MARC and FTO stand for?
Sorry. So FTO is a field training officer.
I was going to guess that.
And the MARC instructor, it's mechanics of control and arrests, or arrest and control. So basically, we have the police department around the state of Maine every year has to be certified and trained in MARC. So we get a 4-hour block with instructors, and it helps us to effect an arrest without us getting hurt or the other person getting hurt. It teaches you how to use the tools that you have. So it's a benefit all the way around. And that falls also into the use of force instructor. That's a big thing. When you can use it, when you can't use it, huge liability if you use it wrongly. So those things are very important. And as I wrote down in here, unfortunately, the training is way south of Caribou. All the training is way south of Caribou. So there's travel, expenses involved, hotels.
Can I ask a question on that too?
Mm-hmm.
So your police officers would be instructors, am I understanding that correct, after they take these trainings?
Correct.
Is that a revenue generator? Can you take that
Yes.
and create classes where you charge
You
outlying
could.
areas possibly so that they don't have to travel so far south?
You could,
Would you be willing to do that?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm assuming that has to do with staffing too. You have to have enough officers to be on patrol and do what they need to do to have someone freed up to be able to do trainings. But if you were fully staffed, then
And don't get me wrong, we can get training up here. We can. The issue is that the instructors, they're not going to come up unless there's 18, 20, 22 people that they're going to instruct.
Yeah.
Okay? So sometimes that's a feat by itself because we're not the only department that's short-staffed. I mean, it's county-wide.
Mhm.
It's almost statewide, actually. So it's really, really hard to get people free to go to these trainings. But that is definitely something that could help us.
I think it
And
would help
other
a lot of
agencies.
other agencies as well, yeah, I could see that being.
It also builds
good
good
for the community.
relationships with these other agencies too. If they know that the officers in Caribou are well-trained, you have a day where you've got training and all that camaraderie. And I think it helps us if we have a situation where we need to call someone or we are responding to something in another town and all of the guys know each other.
Mhm.
you
They all
know.
sing from the same sheet of music.
Yeah, exactly, and they've all, worked with the same instructor, they have, they kind of can anticipate, what's coming next because they've had similar training. But that person can come back and instruct our own people too.
Absolutely. We have our own fire instructor now, firearms instructor. Right now, we use the sheriff's office for MARC training, and they've never billed us. I mean, for that training anyways, and the deputy takes time out of his schedule to put us all through. And he'll do 2 different sessions because not everybody can go to the first. So it's a benefit for the department to have your own instructors, and it's also helping other agencies.
Well, since you erase the travel component, your people, if you have multiple instructors and you're teaching multiple blocks, someone could be teaching, someone could be patrolling. You're not losing that person for an entire span. You have that ability to flex built in so that you can continually cover. So yeah, I think this is a damn good plan.
And here's the other benefit. So with 2 more dispatchers, 1 more officer, if you have an instructor that's instructing, that still leaves you 2 officers on the road because you have a dispatcher that's dispatching. So it's a benefit all the way around. Clothing allowance, 3501070. I'm requesting of the council an increase for the clothing allowance, an increase of $6,500. So we've rebranded. We have new patches, new uniforms, something that I think was needed, and all the guys were happy about it. Obviously, it comes at a cost, and so we have winter uniforms. These are our winter uniforms. We have summer uniforms. The boots come out of this line as well, and as you can see, the boots aren't cheap. A pair of summer boots is probably going to run you $200 plus, and a pair of winter boots $450 easily. Now, not every officer is going to need 2 pair of boots every year. I understand that, but I do want to make note that there's a couple of our guys down there that, as of July, had boots that were 15 plus years old. That's unacceptable. So they're not going to need them every year, but I would venture to say every 4 to 5 years is pretty much the lifespan on a good pair of boots. The winter jackets and the spring jackets, we purchased those with 2024 clothing allowance money. So again, that's something that, unless they tear or they get, mangled beyond repair, we're not going to have to do that every year either. I do have a breakdown here, as you guys can see, what the cost of a new duty shirt averages, right around $105.
Yep.
And they're issued 3, winter and 3 summer, as well as 3 winter pants and 3 summer pants.
And this could go back to your hiring too. I mean, obviously, because if you hire 3 new people, you're going to have, or 3 new officers, you're going to need 3 new gear, or 3 new full sets of gear, not just replacing 1 jacket. They're going to need the whole.
Correct.
So there's.
Yeah, but it's usually a one-time buy.
What's that? It's
Usually-
one time buy, but you don't know.
One-time buy.
As long as it's factored in there, if you know.
For new hires.
Not like you want to get too crazy with this, but you could almost reverse those. You could say, instead of buying them 3 per year, you could say we'll authorize them 3 per year, and as they wear them out, then they go ahead and we just pull one of the 3 for them. That would slow the expenditure down, so it's not all up front, and they would still get to have the same quality, equipment and stuff.
Right.
And that would, I'm not saying I don't want to go further than that, but that's, a nice way to take care of it so that it's not an all upfront cost.
So I believe that the 2026 burden would be less for the uniforms slightly, only because we're rebranding.
Mhm.
So our summer uniforms are going to probably be just as much as our winter uniforms.
Yeah.
Because they're all new. It's all different material, different patches. So, I mean, I don't want to talk about 2026 yet, but I'm just saying that
No, agreed.
there's a chance that that line could be a little less as well. So our winter uniforms cost us $14,000. And I believe our summer uniforms will be awful close to that as well. If we go to 3501074, tires, I'm requesting of the council an increase of $4,000 to go to $8,000. With 8 cruisers in our fleet, at least 3 of them would need tires every year, instead of tires every year. And those would be our 3 patrol cars that are out. The chief's car, I don't think I would need tires every year. And our K-9 car definitely would need tires every year, because he's downstate every month. And when he comes back to us, he'll probably be downstate twice a month to get everything going again. So it probably about $5,000 for tires for 2025. And you'd be surprised the amount of repairs that we do to tires. Patches, run over something in somebody's yard.
You really don't have a choice where you're going.
You know,
It's not like anybody who wants to drive and go, I'm not going there, you don't have that option.
you don't.
I agree.
I think some of the granite curves, some of the new guys just don't know what the turning radius is, I guess. So that happens. I hit a curb. When I first started, I hit a curb on Bend Drive. Most embarrassing, it was pretty bad. People kept going by. Nobody would stop and help either.
So would you also say that the cruisers are getting more miles put on them now that you have dispatchers, so that
Absolutely.
the officers are in the field more now?
And that's why we have 3 full-time road cruisers, and not counting our K-9. I think the 3 spares, I think we could go with replacing them every other year. That means I would like to put them on this schedule, 25, 27, 29. I think that would be beneficial to our spares. So that's why I'm asking for this type of increase. Again, this line probably in 26 might be a little under 8, because we won't have to do our 3 spares. $01079, there's not a whole lot of, I just don't have much say in what this stuff costs here. The physical, psychological exam, the polygraph, that's all needed for the academy. So every cadet has to go through those 3 things. And I pretty much have to pay, our department has to pay whatever the price tag for that. And you can see a polygraph is $350, and a psychological exam runs right around $650. $3501,089, equipment for reserves. I'm requesting with the council an additional $1,000 for our reserve officers' equipment. We have 6 reserve officers now. In 2024, we spent $1,000 easily on their equipment. Now, this equipment line doesn't count their uniforms. That comes out of our uniform allowance. So this is more for their duty gear. Should something get broken, torn, a lot of these guys and gals have their own stuff that they bring when they come to work on shift. And price of everything increasing, so. That's what I'm asking for as far as increases for the expense budget. You can see what some of the decreases are as far as cruiser, animal control officer. Our drug testing has gone down quite a bit. So we're not running to the lab all the time. The Central Humane Society, that's whatever that price is. They basically tell us what we pay. That allows us to bring all of our stray animals to them. We have a key. They have a new building now. I haven't been out to see it, but I hear it's pretty good. Again, like you see the drug testing, there's no way that we'll ever use $16,000 not gonna happen. So we were able to take some from there. And the laundry, I believe they charge us 52 cents an article at Cary Medical Center.
So that's like blankets and sheets and things that you use in the
Yeah,
cell?
it's just basically the blankets for ourselves.
Anybody have any further questions for Chief on this?
I would only, I mean, the thought occurred to me as you were going through this, and this is, I think you've done a very good job on this budget proposal, and it all seems reasonable, but the price tag is very high. And I wonder if you had considered how you could split the direction you're going across 2 years or 3 years and try to get there more gradually to where you want to be, as opposed to this big hit in 1 year. I don't expect an answer. I just am suggesting that maybe that's something you could think about. How you might, split this growth into 2 years.
My 2025 budget is less than the 2024 expense budget, though.
You what? Say that again?
The 2025 expense budget is less than the 2024 one.
Yep.
I've come in under 2024.
And I don't think any of your increases are astronomical by any means.
No,
very not.
Could you say that again? You came in.
Under.
Under budget, under 2024.
If
What
you
am I
take,
not-
yeah, I'm not
if you take the
seeing that.
salaries away,
Yeah. Yeah.
the salaries I don't have any control over, that's the contract. But if you go apples to apples and you look at what
Yep.
we're saving as opposed to
If we
what I'm
didn't add the
asking.
people,
I'm sorry?
if we didn't add the people,
Correct.
you would have been less than what you were in
Correct.
2024.
The two individual, yeah, I understand, yes.
Is that right? Okay. Well, I'm looking at these numbers that show
Right.
$1 million increase over what you spent last year. See that? 2.7 million versus 1.7 million?
And again, I see what you're saying, and again, that's my soapbox moment. That's not, I mean, we're talking everything in that $2,743,000. We're talking workman's comp, social security,
Yeah.
insurance. We're talking all that stuff.
Right.
I'm talking what the department has the ability to save or spend.
What you have control over.
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
Yes, I
Correct.
agree. And that's a
And,
good job.
I mean, it's not a lot, but we saved almost $5,000 from 2024. It's not a lot. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably just a drop in the bucket, I
No,
understand.
every drop counts, and yeah, and I can see that going through the individual ones. There's a lot of reductions in there. So I see what you're saying.
It's hard, that number's really hard. I struggle with that.
But it's a true number.
It is a true
This is
number.
the number of dollars that you need to move forward. Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
We go into capital? or-
Yep, we
Mhm.
can go to that.
We have that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, where's that?
On the last page of the check, we were just
This
off.
one here, no.
That's not it.
No.
Oh, that's just a close.
So
Oh,
like
one-
in your
page
packet, it's on
127.
page 127, like in the numbers.
Okay.
I'm not sure,
Oh, okay, yeah.
not sure if it's in this. Well, it's not very easy to see up there, but maybe you can see it on your paper.
Yeah.
So this one as well, I start to look at some things after my initial email to city manager. And so let's start with, right from the top, the Power DMS program. And forgive me for not adding this stuff to your packet because it would have been beneficial. Basically, what it is a cloud-based system that allows the department to track training and policies and procedures. In the past, everything's been pretty much paper. We'll leave it in dispatch. When you have a chance, read it, sign off on it, and then we'll file it. Before a request would come in, Freedom of Information Act would come in, and we'd be scrambling to try to find, well, did this officer actually read this policy? Because this is part of the request. With this system, the policies are emailed to each officer. Each officer reads it. It's up to myself if I want them to take a test before they sign off on it, whether it's a 5-question exam or whatnot, just something to show if they've read it or not. So they read it, they sign off on it, and it's in their folder. If I need to look for my policies and procedures, what I've signed and what I haven't signed, I can go to the folder and I find it there. It also assists with training. We have our yearly training through Dirigo, and so it allows us to do our training right online with it, and it folds it. It's a file folder for every officer. It's more of a convenience and something to cover the department. It's the way it's broken down is a 3-year program, and sorry I didn't put this number in there for you guys. Again, I found it this afternoon, but in 2025 we paid $2,761.56. That was just our partial payment. Year 1, which would be actually year 2, is $5,106.25, but that's for 2026.
So that's in the form of some kind of a license or subscription to the service, is that right?
It is.
And it's billed over 3 years?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking that might be something to consider moving over into the expense budget, because it really isn't a capital expense, in my opinion. I mean, that's more of an operating expense.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else on Power DMS? The next line would be the vests. We don't have them yet. They're being made. They're specially made. We all get measured for them. There is a grant out there that we got that will pay for half of the vests. Unfortunately, as expensive as they are, that still leaves $10,000 for 2025 for our half. These are on a 5-year cycle, but they would be new in 2025.
And recapitalized in 2031.
That would be the plan, yes.
Yeah.
And again, that number is probably, in 2031, that's probably going to be a high number because we don't know what kind of grants we're going to get at that point.
We don't know what technology is going to change either. That's part of the catch.
They'd be twice as expensive with no grants, you don't know. Vehicle replacement. So this year we got a new cruiser, a 2024 cruiser. It's probably 7/8 finished now. There's just minor tweaks that have to be done. It's all decal lettered, new tires, really nice car. I think it's important that we get a cruiser every year to replace an older one, whether it be we sell it or put it or keep it in our fleet. I think 8 cruisers in our fleet is plenty. I think that's enough. I don't think we need more than that.
So you have 8 now?
We have 8 now.
And you're just cycling year by year?
mine.
How old is your oldest one?
2014, that'd be mine.
Yeah, you need a new, yeah.
But I really, so I think I had the years down somewhere.
That's okay.
But they
Just
range from
curious.
2014 to 2024.
Okay. And has
So-
that line been funded in previous years? Have you been
Yes.
able to keep up with that cycling?
We have, at one point, it was an 18-month cycle, but we were finding, we have one of our new cruisers at Pelter Ford right now for the third heating core that has to be replaced, which doesn't make any sense to anybody, but, so, we all, I mean, every make has a lemon, right? And this car's just giving us problems. And, the repair budget, I kept it at 18, but I'm telling you, we're gonna be close in 2025 to that 18. And this car is like, just really soaking us right now.
You said it's a Ford?
I think any make or model will have that. I really do.
Have you thought about, this might not be a great question, but have you thought about reinstating the motorcycle? I know we've had some accidents and some incidents with motorcycles before, but have you thought about putting one back on the road at some point?
I mean, it's a possibility. We just, I mean, Officer Bell just retired full time.
So maybe it's a good idea to think about that in the future, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That being said, we don't have another, well, Sergeant Willett is, he's also, because you need to be certified.
Yeah.
You need to go to a school. But with all these new guys coming on, maybe somebody would be interested in that. It's a good idea.
So you're paying for storage in the winter.
For a month a year.
I would rather.
We get
Good
some
ride.
nice, be quiet, we get nice summers, and it's getting warmer, we don't even get snow anymore.
It's a global warming.
I'm pretty sure you can put snow tires on a motorcycle.
So the $65,183.60 might seem a bit steep for a cruiser, being as the three quotes that I got, the highest quote I got was $53,695. The last two quotes you see there were from the county here. The first one is from down south.
Oh, I didn't notice I noticed the 65,000, that includes all the required equipment.
It does.
That's a big expense, I mean, $65,000, we know it's a lot of money, but go buy a pickup, I mean, go
That's
buy
what I was
this. I mean, that's really not
Yep.
crazy, I mean, if it
Yeah.
comes with that gear. But
The cruiser equipment is,
Other than the radio.
our last cruiser, the 2024 that we just outfitted, the equipment alone was $5,065 just for the equipment. That's not counting the labor to install everything. The labor is probably going to be between $4,000 and $5,000 as well. And that's if you don't run into any issues, which you shouldn't brand new, but you never know. The next line, gun replacement. Thankfully, we have, in 2 weeks, we'll have our new Glocks. And it's really needed. The outfit that we went through is actually going to be giving us $270 trade-in on our SIGs. Now, if there's an officer that wants to keep their SIG for sentimental purposes or whatnot, they'll pay the $270, and that goes to these guys here. So the actual bill, the actual total for 18 Glocks with the red dot and the tack light and the 17 holsters is $15,272.86. That's with a $4,050 credit for our SIGs. That's, I think, 7 years is a good plan for firearms. So, again, I realize that's, I just wanted to break down the new gun replacement until 2030, just so council could see it's gonna be roughly $3,000 a year in capital to 2031, 2032. It goes up with inflation, but again, that number can fluctuate, and it will. The next thing I'm asking of the council is helping the department fund new tasers. This is on a lease. This is a lease program. So after 60 months, they take our tasers and our batteries back, and we get five more new ones. So every 60 months, we get new ones. Again, that's yearly, so it's $4,549.80 a year for the lease. I think it's a great plan. One of our officers is the one that researched this and found it for us, and he did a great job, because this is a really great plan. You get a lot of things. There's also a docking station with it, so if you have to tase somebody, you can just put it to your docking station, and then all your video is there, everything is there. It's and it also, your docking station will also update your tasers if they need to be updated. Great plan. So much better than buying them outright and then being stuck with them. The tasers that we have now are so old, you can't even upgrade them anymore. The software is just not there.
Agreed. Anytime you can, excuse me, anytime you can lease that stuff and continually
Yeah.
get it new, it's definitely a
It's
benefit.
a bonus, it is.
Does the plan accommodate too for like replacement of
It does.
tasers that have been discharged?
It does. And again, I'm sorry. I could definitely email this stuff to you guys, because it's broken right down. We also get a lot of training aids with this. We actually have a taser suit. So if you want to put the suit on and let an officer shoot you, it's,
I kind of want to.
Take your word for it.
it comes with
We can
many
do that at a
cartridges.
special council meeting. We all
And
want
First,
training
you'll get
cartridges.
tased.
Okay, perfect.
You first.
You're not shooting.
So they're
one
just
cartridge.
they're cartridges that
I'll
you
volunteer.
just swap out.
I'll do it, just don't miss.
I see this as a revenue stream.
Yeah.
So, we auction off who gets to tase, like the mayor, the deputy mayor, the manager.
Thursdays on Sweden.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
But a lot more
So
exciting.
we'll
Way
get in
more
the suit,
exciting.
we'll let them tase us. We're gonna balance the budget with auctioning off, like,
Sounds like
tasing
a good
requests.
time.
Yeah.
Sounds like a party.
Probably gonna have to get another suit.
You just lost your job, Jody, for Duncan.
Yeah, Duncan
Yeah.
booth.
You just lost
Instead
your
of the
job to
Duncan,
Duncan.
yeah, the
one.
Duncan.
Yeah, no, I get tased, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let's spice it up a
fun.
little. That's a little more fun.
We'll have to go with
My
that.
last line there is radio and repeaters for the cruiser. That's a huge expense. And the 6387 for 2025, that also includes the installation. That's the radio, the repeater, and the installation. The quote that I have here is from RCM, and we use them for all of our radio stuff, for the cruisers, even our portables as well.
Now, is this purchase and installation of a new radio repeater
Brand new.
for a cruiser, and those are 6,000 apiece?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that'll accommodate one cruiser.
One cruiser.
Okay.
So the newer cruisers, see what happens is, so mine's a 2014, so that radio and repeater probably isn't gonna work by 2025. If it does, it's not gonna work very long before you start to get, having to replace parts, whether it be the mic or it's just full of static, and so radio is pretty important, kinda like your gun and your tasers. It's an important thing to have.
So have we kept up with that capital requirement over the last several years?
Or
Or are you
Yes.
behind now?
No, for most of it, we have.
Okay.
There has been instances, like I said, where we took an older radio and put it in a newer car. 3 years down the road, we have to put a new radio in the new car.
Okay, thanks.
So it's a huge number at the bottom of 2025. I get that $89,097 in capital. And that's what I'm asking for capital.
Okay, here's your revenue.
That, on the capital, there was a couple of suggestions. You're talking about the DMS, potentially moving that to
Expense.
an expense. I'll remember, we can talk about that at the capital committee meeting, whether what we
Yep.
should do with that and then bring that to council.
Yep, I made a note.
Just
here.
make a note of that. I
Okay.
don't, there's a few other things we talked about
Right,
at
and
the last
fire
meeting,
to
that
move
fire,
into
you know, some of that stuff.
expense
So we'll
too.
see where that
Yep.
where it needs to lie. That's just a reminder, so, for me.
Right, on to revenue.
Real quick for the revenue. Pretty much the revenue, all you have to do is look at the bottom line.
What page are we looking at, Penny?
Yeah, so that would be on page 153 of your packet.
Thank you.
So like if you have this cheat sheet, it'll tell you like.
Oh, we have a cheat sheet somewhere.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
on,
gotta find
page
it.
all kinds of
54 is the cheat sheet.
Okay.
It gives you the
Okay.
page numbers.
My
for
cheat
everything.
sheet. There's a lot. Now my pages are all mixed up.
More copies of this stuff at home.
I don't know how my pages are. I'm backwards this way.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the 102,471 could be a bit deceiving because we do have $70,949 left in our Cops Fast grant. And that's being used right now to help with the wages of one of our officers. Then the other one is a $24,372 salary reimbursement. That's basically grants that we work. And what ends up happening is sometimes, some of the grants, the city will pay our wages, but the grant will reimburse those wages.
Mhm.
So those are the two big ticket items there, and that's why that bottom line is where it's at. We're really not a revenue department. I mean, we do a lot of concealed weapons permits. I've learned that in the last 8 months. Police dispatching for Limestone Fire Department. Fingerprints, not so much anymore. And the prisoner boarding, we just don't have that right now. And we just, if we have somebody, we take them right down to Holton ourselves. Whether reserve will come in and do it for us, or. And that brings the meals down as well, prisoner meals down as well, because our arrestees aren't staying with us for as long a time.
So why are we planning on holding cells for the new police station?
Because you have to think of the future.
But, so you
Right.
intend to get back into the business?
Well, it's not by my choice. We're not getting transport right now,
Okay.
okay? So, but
And to
things
pick-
will get better.
And to piggyback on that, you're constantly fighting what's available in Holton for spacing. And if there's a holdup, it's gonna backflow the whole system. So it makes sense to have a well-established good plan and not use it than to get caught going, where do we put this guy? I mean, obviously, you can't keep someone in a closet. I mean, so you're going to need to have those pieces added to that. So I think that's so.
Well, the reason I asked, I understood that was a pretty significant revenue-generating thing for the city.
It used to be.
It has to be, or it used to be.
Used to be. It can get back there.
Okay.
It can get back to that point.
Fair enough.
And we're gonna make some revenue when we start leasing out the space in the new police station too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I still don't I don't have any numbers on that yet, but I did talk to the higher authorities for probation parole, so we're working on that stuff.
Great.
And just catching up here, wasn't there a plan at one point in time, because of Caribou's centralized location, that we could become a training vista for the locals? You know, we could be hosting like seminars and so forth
Oh,
and
I see what you
educational
mean.
things, because we would have the facility to do that, and in which case we would be reimbursed for that.
There could be potential for that
Yeah.
because we have the spaces that
I
will be able
think-
to be used or utilized in those ways, so.
I think I remember having a discussion with the retired chief, and he was saying that the goal was inset with that they would bring some form of training here so that it would, help offset costs and stuff as we move forward.
Any questions on revenue? All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. I know I was long-winded, sorry.
That's all right, thank you very much.
Good info, thank
Thanks.
you.
Congratulations on surviving. That was your first one, yeah.
Up next is Danielle.
I'm gonna make this one short and sweet. I don't have any say on the salaries. You guys gave me a 4% COLA, so there's a 4% raise. If you look at the travel expenses, it's a little bit different this year, for when trainings happen. Previously, any travel, for some reason, was billed under Department 10, General Government. So I built it into this budget for its own line. Did you find it? I'm on page 88.
There we go,
Okay.
thanks.
Conferences, I've never attended one of them in person, so that was a line I was able to not have anymore. Training and education, again, I did build in some mileage, but I'm gonna do a training this week on Zoom. Anytime it's offered, I do it that way instead of traveling. Health insurance, that's a number from Carl. Workers' comp, I don't know why it went up 100%, if my wages only went up 4%, but that's a number from Carl.
Right.
So really, in GA, the biggest difference is traveling, coming out of the proper budget, and the wage increase this year. So it is a slight increase of 8.19% at the bottom. We also have a revenue report, page 147. Every month that I administer Connor general assistance or just handle the paperwork in a zero report, I get $400 paid to the city, as long as I submit the documents to Augusta. So that's where you see revenue. And then, like, if you look back, there's different things. GA reimbursement, the only way we get our revenue is we get 70% of the money that we spend back. So that's all it is. So it's really hard to say what I'm gonna spend or what I'm not gonna spend. We've got, $25,000 for general assistance, which is not a huge number. Unfortunately, with GA, if a client comes in, I can't say, I'm sorry, I'm at my budget. I still have to assist those people. But 25,000, I think I can still comfortably fit, because I normally come in around 20,000. And that's why we kept it right close to where we were last year.
So Danielle, would you like to tell everyone when your last general assistance appointment was?
Saturday.
Because GA is on call, how many hours a day?
24/7. But it was in the middle of the day. It wasn't 2 a.m., so I was happy
Yeah,
about
because
it.
they contact the
Yeah, they contact the police
police
department.
department, and then
And they
it's-
will contact
then they have to,
Danielle.
then the police have to contact you.
And I didn't answer my phone, so they called my husband.
They
Because
know
I was
how
in
to-
the shower. He's like, yo, the PD wants you. I was like, oh my God.
Probably had a good indication what it was about.
Yeah.
I
He
hope
had
that's
no
why they're
clue.
calling
Yeah, this is why
about.
it's-
Yeah, he
Right.
had no clue why they were calling me. He's just like, you need to call them right now. I was like, okay, it's gonna be okay. I can finish my shower. And then I came to work for a couple hours and took care of it and was on my way again. But do you have any questions?
No, not
Okay.
for me.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have a handy dandy packet
Yes.
from Manager Thompson
So
for.
I'm hoping that this will make it go a little bit quicker for you. So Department 10, which is general government, I'm going to start there. So I guess we think of departments that are funded through general government is the city clerk's office. Our city clerk, as you heard tonight, also works as our GA administrator, the motor vehicle agent, and our election warden. She has a deputy city clerk and an assistant city clerk. It also funds the Finance and HR Department, where we have a Finance and Human Resources Director, our Deputy Tax Collector, who's also a Finance Assistant, our Deputy Treasurer, who does payroll and accounts receivable and accounts payable, the City Manager, and also our Office Coordinator, which that is a vacant position right now. Additionally, funds from Department 10 go to services that benefit all departments, like the city council stipends, legal fees for the city, the annual report, the annual audit, any municipal dues, and also funds our elections here in the city. So a general explanation for costs that are over for 25. As you've heard tonight, we have the employee COLA of 4% for all of the positions in general government are non-union positions, so those were covered under the COLA of 4%, except the manager who is on a contract. And so we haven't been able to have my evaluation, and I can't have I can't have a raise until I've had an evaluation. Maybe you'll end up cutting my pay, I don't know. Staff training. Unfortunately, most of the training now is back in person, and as you've heard twice already, our training is always downstate. When we have an option to do something online, we generally will try to take it online, but it's getting to the point now that the stuff is back in person. Our assistant city clerk position and the office coordinator positions were unfilled for extended periods in 2024. How many different assistant and city clerks did you have last year? 3? That's what I thought. So there were periods in between that Danielle didn't have someone in her position. The position in the manager's office has been vacant since September. So we're not adding any new positions in general government. In fact, last year we looked at having an assistant city manager position. We've decided against that, and we are now looking for someone in economic development. That would be funded out of Department 11. There's our legal fees. So in 2024, our original budgeted amount, if you remember, was like $25,000. But we cut it back to 20 when we had to cut nearly, I think it was a little over $1 million that we cut from the mill rate last year before we sent out tax bills. So the council and staff went through the budget and said, okay, well, we're halfway through the year. Where are we less than halfway through our budget, accounting for things that maybe we only pay for in the last half of the year? So at the time, we felt with our legal fees, we were on track and we could reduce that to $20,000. You can see we ended up going over budget, and that was all due to one issue, which was Cassidy Holdings and their tax abatement case with the city. Now, when we all met to set the tax rate in July, everything was going fine with that. I, as the city manager, who also, as you know, am very passionate about assessing, and that's what I did for work here at the city before becoming city manager, I was able to present our case to the county commissioners. And that was in July, and the county commissioners decided that the city had done their job, presented the case, and they denied his abatement. So in July, we thought, okay, we're off the hook. And then, 30 days after July 19th, in August, we said, oh, we're for sure off the hook now because the appeal time had run out. But no, Mr. Cassidy then filed several different filings with the court, and that caused us to go over budget fighting this matter in court. Even though we were able to say, if we would have had to hire an attorney to fight the property tax abatement, that probably would have been $15,000, but we didn't have to do that because I could do that, but I am not a lawyer. So we did have to hire Bernstein Shore to fight for our interests in court. Eventually, that was dismissed, but it was at a substantial cost to the city. Attorney Solomon also just works on general things. He looks over our contracts before the council signs them. We ask him different questions about different interpretations. I have him look over things that come to us to see if it's anything that we should, could get us into any trouble, that kind of thing. I have in here 20,000, which is what we had budgeted last year. However, we may need to increase that if we need to go to mediation and arbitration this year. So this is, we got 20,000, but we may need to add, we may need to double that. So we have health insurance. Again, it was, our increase this year, I believe, was 7%, but you'll see it's more than 7% over, and that's because we don't know what people are going to take for a plan. Those plans can change from year to year based on the person who's in the position, what their situation is. They can change at the end of the year what they have. Vehicle repair, there is a fleet vehicle that is in general government. We have one in Department 22, which is tax assessing. We don't know when we're going to need vehicle repairs, tires, those kinds of things. I just wanted to bring, I have it shaded here, appropriation allowance. That is the number, that's where we have to put the number if we're moving money from one year to the next. So when the council votes that, okay, we're taking lapsed appropriations or surplus revenues from one year to the next, it has to be expensed somewhere. And so that's where it's expensed, is here in Department 10. Does anyone have any questions on Department 10?
No.
So moving on to Department 11, which is Economic Development. Now this is, oh, do we want to look at revenue for, I don't know if I have revenue in there. So economic development, this is funded through our TIF district. And what we have for employees in that department, we have our special projects coordinator who is part-time. She works on grants, she works on the comp plan, anything that would be in support of our economic development activities in the city. 30% of the city manager's salary is paid from this department because it is part of the manager's job to be involved in the economic development activities here in the city. We are also creating a new position, which would be full-time, which is an economic and community development specialist. As I've said once tonight, there's a lot of time with grant management. There is a lot of time with our different planning projects that we have. I have had our, the person who does our website for us actually create something on the website for our planning projects because we have so many of them now, so that people can go in and look for updates. The person for this position will be able to help with those planning projects to try to, and also steer economic development activities. Of course, this person's going to need training, you know, unless they come to us fully trained. Again, this is an enterprise department, so this is funded not from general fund revenues. This is funded by revenue generated in the city's tax increment finance districts, which we have the downtown district, RC2, the Bouchard, and the Hilltop. So any expenses that are paid from this department have to be tied back to our original acceptance into the state's TIF program. So we can't just pay for things that you would be general fund. Everything here has to tie back to something that was approved on one of those letters, and it has to be for economic development. We also have several credit enhancement agreements in our TIF districts that are also funded from the revenues. They are paid out of the like a G account, not out of the funds for operating the department. So some items that we previously had in the capital budget, after hearing, so this year, the capital committee of the council had a charter amendment, the charter committee had a charter amendment that would kind of define capital and define what could be done with our enterprise accounts if they had additional funds, that funds could be spent. So because we've now kind of defined what's capital, we had previously had in our capital expenses different things for our planning projects, which would be matches for our DOT VPI. Like I have in here, the appraisals. We can't, our MBRC grants, we can't pay for appraisals out of that. Downtown district lights. So the city pays the paid call fire department to install the Christmas lights around town. And back in 2008, this was an agreement made between the paid call firemen, and a 10% increase is built in every year. So that has been moved into the expense budget here. And another explanation is, again, we're hiring for a full-time person. So you can see our regular pay has gone up and everything that's associated with that. Training for a new person to attend training. Health insurance, again, we don't know what this person is going to take for health insurance. Our part-time person, of course, doesn't have health insurance, but part of the manager's health insurance, Social Security, workman's comp, all of that comes out of this this department here. We pay NMDC for our membership is paid out of this Department 11. What we pay to the chamber is also out of this department. The person who does the social media for the city updates our website. Those other things, again, they tie back to economic development, communication, letting people know what's going on in the city. Downtown infrastructure, one of the big things in the downtown district plan, which is one of the planning documents for economic development in the city, talks a lot about improvements in the downtown area, which would be through the whole district, but a lot of them tie back to Linden Square, down on Sweden Street, Herschel Street, that area. One of the projects that we're doing this year is Mr. Marquis has been working with an individual who's willing to do some work on our Caribou statue, and they're going to donate their time to do the work. We just have to buy the materials, which is a huge savings because this person is a master mason. So having that time donated is going to be huge for that project downtown. So, any questions?
Do our city signs and things come out of this budget as well?
Yep. So that would be like under downtown improvement. So if we're, like we've been, a lot of our city signs were designed and built by Brian Cullens. And unfortunately, he passed away, so we've had to try to work with a new vendor to have some signs made, and we're trying to work on that. Like our community garden, we need to get a sign up there. That's been one that we've been needing. We have a lot of people that say that it's kind of confusing downtown and that we need better signage. That would also be like a downtown improvement.
I was just thinking about like the one that's across from like the Bird's Eye site.
Okay,
That one can maybe use something.
I know it has a different, I don't know where that slogan came from.
It looks
That
old.
wasn't a city sign.
So could
That was
we,
a different, that was a
could
committee that done that.
that be
20 years
replaced out
ago.
of this budget?
Yep, this is where that would come out
We
of.
could put a sign that we have around all the other ones similar to that.
Right, that's good. Good news.
Yeah. So Department 17 is health and sanitation. And so this is not a budget with a lot of expense that comes out of here. We have our health officer, we have tri-community landfill, Social Security for the health officer. So the state does mandate that someone in the city is appointed to be the health officer. That's currently our fire chief. AWS is tri-community landfill. That's where our municipal solid waste goes. Caribou, the way Caribou does it, you can pay someone to haul your municipal solid waste to the landfill. You could buy a sticker. But it's the city that ultimately, through this funds, is the one who actually pays for the disposal of that municipal solid waste. I believe that the idea was we didn't want people that were creating their own dumps at home, throwing things alongside the road. We want to make sure that it's very convenient and cost effective for people to dispose of their municipal solid waste.
As well as the burn issue. There was a huge burn issue in Caribou back in the day.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, Joanne, you remember that. Everybody was burning trash downtown back in the day.
Burn barrel.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
So, people that have gone before us have worked on that issue so that we don't have to deal with that. You know, I can tell you that Heuristic Waste Solutions is such a well-run organization, and they are always planning ahead. They do a terrific job out there, and of course, the City of Caribou is one of the owners of Heuristic Waste Solutions, and it's well run. Even our children are not going to need to worry about their trash. I mean, we're not hauling it, you know, to Juniper Ridge or Norwich Walk or something. We have that right here. There's plenty of space to build new cells. It's just they really do a fantastic job, and we're very fortunate. Any questions on Department 17? So moving to Department 18, which is municipal buildings. So this department funds the costs associated with the municipal building and the Lions building. So this would be things like water and sewer, property insurance, electricity, heating fuel, building supplies like paper towels, toilet paper, cleaning supplies, building and boiler maintenance, and the janitorial services. So my explanation for increases is that everything costs more. Water and sewer rates have gone up. Electric has gone up. Heating fuel, there's nothing here that has gone down, honestly. Any questions on Department 18?
Have you given any thought into consolidating all the municipal, I guess, building maintenance under one account and trying to manage it centrally?
I think at one time it was that way, and then they broke it out. It's just like when Chief Stossier was talking about, you know, well, why do we have Social Security and Workman's Comp? So at one time, I believe all that was together, and then we had a council that said, no, we need to know, like, each department, you know, what their costs are for their wages, so that, you know, and I think same thing with buildings, you know, so we can get a handle on some of that. But I mean, maintenance, and this is like short-term type issues, not capital projects.
Well, you might get some efficiencies and some supplies that you purchase or contracts or whatever if it was all consolidated. I was just curious.
We can certainly look into that.
Well, it's up to you, I suppose, but.
Regarding item 031, you're talking about the building maintenance one?
I'm talking about basically the whole account,
Oh, the whole
1801, consolidating all of the different facilities in the city under, you know, one municipal building account. It's just another way of doing it. I don't know. Advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, like janitorial, we do have like one contract that covers like the municipal building, the police department, the library.
Right.
That's something that we're looking at. I mean, it's certainly something we can look into. So for a capital budget request for the municipal building, this building was constructed in 1939 as a fire station. A substantial remodel of the building was completed in 1977 after the current fire station was constructed. This building houses the Caribou Police Department, a 24-hour staffed facility in the lowest level. The city clerk, general assistants, the Caribou Housing Authority, code enforcement, and tax assessment are on the main floor, which was remodeled in 2016. And the second floor are the offices for finance, human resources, and the city manager. In 2020, a capital needs assessment was performed by Criterion Brown Rand Engineers, and reports on municipal buildings were provided to the city of Caribou. According to the report, the roof of this building, the cost estimated to be approximately $30,000, is a near-term replacement item. Powers Roofing has been contacted to provide an inspection this spring. The city should begin placing funds in a reserve to replace the roof in the next 2 to 4 years. The flat work and brick masonry needs some maintenance within the next 5 years. Cost estimated to be approximately $10,500. The wooden ramp on the east side of the building, estimated cost $5,000. Replacing garage door openers and allowances for air conditioner replacements were also mentioned. Some other big items to be addressed, which was not in the needs assessment, but it's something that staff thinks about a lot, which is this building is not ADA compliant. A new ADA entry into the building should be designed. If someone needs to get into the building and would need help, I think they knock like on somebody's window and they come and help them in. That's not really efficient. We have a ramp here, but this door is so heavy, someone is not going to be able to get it open, you know, if you're in a, have to have assistance to get in here. Additionally, more voters are choosing to cast their ballots here at the Caribou City office prior to Election Day. The state of Maine has issued guidance on best practices for securing the facilities where election workers are present. This security would also benefit the clerk's office year-round. So in 2025, staff would like to work with the Municipal Buildings Committee to obtain designs for these projects so they can be worked into the accepted capital plan for the city. So we're requesting $25,000 for capital, and right now the municipal building reserve has a balance of $37,416.96.
That's the current balance.
That's the current
Okay,
balance.
current balance. Okay, thank you.
Any questions on Department 18?
If we looked at, I know that there's been some grants out there, and I think even through NMDC on ADA, some ADA stuff. I don't know if municipalities are included in that, but I wonder if there's, I know, let's just throw another
Yeah.
thing on the plate, but.
I don't know,
wonder.
Lisa and I have talked about some possibilities too, because the Caribou Housing Authority has some participants that could benefit from having a better entry here. And so we've tried to think about ways to leverage, you know, that aspect of the services we provide here too, to maybe get the funding to help with this, but it needs to be designed first.
For sure.
One of the things in 2016 when they were doing the remodel here, because we brought it up then, I mean, these are the same old doors that have been here probably since 1977. They get chunks of salt and ice down in the mechanisms. How many times a year is Danielle's like, we'll send an email. If you're going to use the front doors when you leave, please pull on them when you leave, because if you get some, you know, salt or ice in there, then they don't shut. And so in 2016, we said, look, maybe this is the time, you're doing the remodel down here to address the front entry, but because we have the 2 entries and then the steps to the upstairs, it was determined that it was going to be cost prohibitive to do that at the time. So the city, based on the amount of money that was spent for the remodel, had to spend a certain percentage for ADA compliance, so it was spent in other ways with bathrooms and having, you know, a counter that was the right height. But I mean, we can't run from the idea that it's a challenge here for people to get into this building. I don't know if that answers your questions or gives you more questions, but we
It was
have,
just an
you know,
idea
thought
as a
about,
grant
you
funding
know,
part-
ways,
piece
but
of it.
first we have to figure out exactly what it's going to cost and how it would be accomplished with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That's a lot of different things when you're talking about an old building, so.
Yep, agreed. And I mean, the good thing about this building, like, it doesn't have to be designed to the standard like a new police station or fire station or something that's public safety that has to make sure that it's standing when everything else happens. I mean, we work in this building on the top 2 floors. We're open 45 hours a week. So that's how long this building, we have a 24-hour facility on the bottom floor. But people can get in there a little bit easier because of the grade. I mean, the door is still not great, and we've talked different times about, like, do we need some kind of an intercom or something out there if we had to lock the door.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, this is an older building, but we want to make sure that citizens in Caribou can access their services that they need without knocking on, like, Sue's window or something, or I think you guys kind of watch for people as they're coming to, or sometimes they're expecting someone and they know to watch, but.
We have people that just call ahead, and we go out to the parking lot and do the transactions.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And we make it work. I mean, we had to do that during COVID. I don't know how many building permits I did on the hood of cars, like in, 20-degree weather out there, but they didn't suspend things like, the main uniform building and energy code, so we still had to do all that, even though we weren't allowed to do it indoors.
Go out in the cold.
That happened, so. Anything else on Department 18? So we'll move on to Department 22. This is tax assessment and code enforcement. So this funds the work done by the deputy tax assessor who works on business personal property. He's also the deputy code officer and works as the building official, as he is certified in land use and also the components of the main uniform building and energy code. Residential construction, commercial and residential energy, commercial and residential ventilation, and residential radon. This also includes a stipend for our local plumbing inspector because we do not have staff currently that has the certifications to be a plumbing inspector. We have hired a former town manager to help us get our comp plan across the finish line. We have not been successful in getting a full-time code officer. I can do some things, but I can't do all the things. And luckily we were able to find someone. I actually met with him this morning. He's going to be at our planning board meeting Thursday. He's been working with Karen, our special projects coordinator, about getting the sections and get them to the planning board for them to approve so that we can move on from the comp plan. We are hoping to hire a full-time code enforcement officer in 2025. One thing that's happened since our last meeting, I think, was so we had written a letter of support for a regional code enforcement officer to work through NMDC. We did learn that they were able to get funding for that. However, it's only for municipalities 5,000 in population and under. So once again, we're small but not small enough. We're poor but not poor enough to get help from the state. So, yeah. So our tax assessor is hired as a contractor and not an employee. He's paid out of contracted expenses. The tax assessment revenues are dependent on the tax rate because it's used. So those are different reimbursements for that. So part of a tax assessor's work is to qualify exemptions, homestead exemptions, veteran exemptions, blind exemptions. We have to do business equipment tax exemptions. When the second half of the year, you're working on business equipment tax reimbursements. Solar is another reimbursement that we get from the state, and because Caribou has multiple solar projects in Caribou, every year you have to go by, make sure they're still working. Although, interestingly, their lobby is strong enough, they don't have to provide us with information but once during their life cycle. But it's up to the assessor, the assessing staff, to make sure that they're still operational. And that's all paperwork, that's all tied to our mill rate. These are all revenues that are tracked under like other revenues when we're doing our tax rate calculator. Explanation for increases. Again, we're trying to fill the full-time code enforcement officer position so we don't have to be working on contracted plumbing inspectors and, dial a CEO for help, and having former town managers work with our planning board to get our projects done. We're hoping that by hiring someone full-time, we can eliminate the stipend positions, but of course, hiring a new person means they will need training unless they come to us fully trained. So we would hope that at that point, the person would take, so there's 3 tests for land use, there's another 7 for the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code, which this year in April is being updated to the 2021 code, which is why you see an increase in here for code maintenance, because we will have to be moving to the new 2021 I-code books. Let's see, yeah, this is in here. If we get a new person, we do like to have our code office staff to have clothing that identifies them as city staff so that no one shoots first and asks questions later. So that's another expense in this department. Any questions on Department 22 or no?
No. Penny, I think we might need to take a couple minutes break.
no problem.
If that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do like a 5-minute break.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was 22, right? That was tax assessment. What do we got left?
We can turn off our microphones for a couple minutes here, maybe.
Should I break out the candy now or later? My wife is trying to get rid of all the Christmas candy, so she sends me to council meetings with all the candy. Yeah.
You want some before I pass it down?
You know what? Yes, thank you. I didn't even think. I saw on TV last night, Reese's has come out with something with a lava chocolate down at the bottom, like a gooey lava chocolate. I said, ooh, I want
I
that.
have a Cheesecake Factory chocolate cake in the shop, and I put it in the microwave the other day.
Yeah?
It was still a little bit like cold.
Oh, okay.
But I put it on defrost today, I didn't want to like melt it, but then it turned into like a lava cake, and it was so good. I'm like, this is the only way I've ever to eat this cake.
There's 2 of them. The
I
other
didn't
mic
know
would
that.
turn on.
Cheesecake Factory didn't turn those cakes. I thought they only did cheesecakes. No, regular cake too. And it's good.
Is that at 8:15-ish, would we say? So I can just make mention of it when we resume. Yeah.
Everybody else is here.
All right, we all set? Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah, 8:15.
Oh, can we have the candy back down? I gave it to you.
Oh, I didn't know.
He gave it back to me. It's getting so tricky.
Oh, I moved it there. I guess I didn't know which way it was going.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started back. I would like to make note for the record that Councilor Bagley did leave the meeting at 8:15 p.m. Okay.
So, Department 38 is protection, so this is where we have our streetlight maintenance, and the fee that we pay to the CUD for hydrant rental is how it is on here. There's no revenue for this department. I did note an increase in our electric consumption for streetlights in '25 over what we asked for in '24, just because based on actuals. And again, like everyone feels at home, we are having, all of our utilities are more expensive now.
Up and up and up.
Any questions?
Nope.
So Department 39 is the Caribou Emergency Management. So this is a stipend position for a member of staff to oversee the Caribou Emergency Management operations. Our longtime emergency management director retired in 2024. But as we discovered during the December 12th power outage, this department serves an important function to make certain that all municipal facilities and tools are ready in the event of an emergency. So you will see that I did increase some of the lines here for, in doing some research, I found that there are some professional organizations. Apparently we haven't been members of these organizations before, but I think the city could benefit from just having access to what's new, what maybe is working in other areas of the country, similarly sized municipalities to ours. I'm not sure where the former director was getting information, but I did note that those might be good organizations. I asked around to some other town managers to see, with their emergency management operations, do they attend trainings? The people that they have doing emergency management, are they attending trainings? Do they belong to professional organizations? And found that most generally they do. For some reason, this never had like a cell phone reimbursement or anything in this line. Of course, if the person is already gets a cell phone stipend, you wouldn't need this, but if it happened to be for a position, if whoever was working in this position, right now we don't have anyone. We have people doing different things. Gary looks after the things at the wellness center. Chief LaJoy looks after like the generators at the EOC. We have our finance department that takes care of all the paperwork for everything. Back when we had the issue in December, we were able to identify some things that needed to be updated. I've met with Darren Woods from the Heuristic EMA about things we could do better, maybe some grants that we should be looking at for equipment, and they have been extremely helpful. He's also helping me with actually writing a job description for the stipend position so that there are some expectations communicated so that when we have our next, what was the date here? I looked it up, December 12th incident, that everything clicks, we turn the things on, everything goes as planned. Any questions here? Some of these things are, again, things that we can't control, electricity, insurances. I know that last year we did a deep dive on what we had for vehicles and property associated with this account. So we don't need to do that every year. I've added in here again, if we get a new person, if they wanted to get, a jacket or a shirt or something that says emergency management, so on scene, they could be properly identified as the person who is in charge of emergency management for the city. We also didn't have any line in here for field expenses if we did have some kind of an emergency in the field and needed to get water or other supplies to someone who's working in emergency management capacity. And for revenue for this department, we do receive, the city receives fees from Woodland, New Sweden, and Perham for emergency management. And also tower rent. So, and those things are all handled by the finance department. Any questions on Department 39?
Nope.
So the next one we're going to talk about is the Caribou Municipal Airport, which is Department 60. So we are not asking for anything for the capital budget this year because we have, for the next few years, what we have for projects, we do have money in reserves for those because the City Council's been very generous in funding those reserves. We haven't had anything that's not been covered through our FAA grants that we've needed to step out and pay. During the time of the pandemic, the city also received CARES funding, and that's what we used to do some of the deferred maintenance at the airport. So we've all caught up on that. This past year, we had the FAA inspector who comes on a triennial basis, and he was very happy to see that we had addressed everything that we can address, okay? We can't address things like the elevation of this hump that is over at the end of the runway should be less. Well, that's nature. So we can't do things, we can't do something about that. But we can, everything that we could address, we have. We've replaced the lights. We've had a crack ceiling project. Everything that needed to be done, everything is top-notch at your airport. This does fund a stipend position for a member of staff to oversee operations, which would be our Public Works Director. He is in charge of making sure that everything's working up there. If it needs plowed, he's the one that dispatches the person to do snow plowing. If the windsock is not properly socking with the wind, he makes sure that we get that replaced. He actually goes up and checks that the place is locked several times a day. And most importantly, he's the one that puts out the NOTAMs, the notice to airmen if the airport is closed due to, if we can't get the runway cleared quickly. We'll have to put out a NOTAM that the airport is closed. So Dave is the one that does that. He does a fantastic job, and just one of the many things we will miss about Dave when Dave retires. Yeah. So the city manager actually has the responsibility for the airport just as part of my job. It's actually more paperwork than I really thought you would have at a small municipal airport, but every week there's some time that's devoted to working on airport tasks. So we do have some revenue from the airport, which would be hangar rentals, fuel sales, and then miscellaneous income up there. But most of it is fuel sales and also the hangars that we have. And we're also, again, very fortunate. Our finance department does all the billing and stuff for us with the hangar rentals. They also check to make sure that the people with aircraft in the hangars have their insurance. They send out all of those reminders for them, so that's not anything that the city manager needs to do or that Dave needs to do. Any questions on Department 60?
I didn't see the stipend listed.
So
in
it
there.
is, I don't know why this is, but it is under air consultant contract.
Okay.
I have no
I had
idea
the
why
same
it's under
question.
there, and every year I say, you know, we should change that, but then we lose the history.
Got it.
so. And then snow plowing, we do have, this is also an employee that does plowing. What's that?
I said, I thought that air consultant contract was for Seth.
No, so we do have an airport engineer, which is Stan Tech, and Seth Lovely is the person that works with us. They actually, when you have the air contract, it's just, they really kind of have first dibs on if you are putting something out to bid.
Oh,
He does a
okay,
lot of
so he
stuff for
doesn't-
us that is not, you know, it's, we don't pay him any like annual fee or anything like that. It's just, you know, when we have grants and grants administration, he gets paid out of that, so,
This doesn't,
yeah.
this doesn't reflect any of that, any of the FAA money that we.
No,
we share,
so that,
we share, we
yep,
pay back.
that would be
Rockland
all
and-
in like the capital
Okay.
projects for
Yep.
the airport. So the project that we'll be working on in the spring of 2025 is going to be the apron project.
Yes.
So that's all been put out to bid, all the engineering's done, the contract, we went through the whole process with the contract, and that was awarded to Soderbergh Construction, who was considerably less than the other bidders, probably because literally his asphalt operation is kind of at the end of the runway, so I guess he doesn't have too far to come with his product. But so we're very happy that we're able to keep that in-house in the city. Also, when we did our crack seal bidding, we were able to use 180 seal coating, which is also a Caribou business. So it's always great to have local folks that we can depend on for these things. One thing that we took out was runway maintenance. So before, we had discussed putting in a certain amount every year, like towards crack sealing. We won't need to do that in the next 5 years, so probably next year we'll be asking for something to put aside for that. But last year, the capital budget committee said, you know, sometimes we don't use the runway maintenance, and we're budgeting for it. Why don't we move that over to capital, since it's not something we do every year up there? So it was determined that we should move it up there.
Okay.
Just because I'm new,
Mm-hmm.
what's the runway replacement cycle? You know, at some time, you're gonna do all these repairs, we're gonna be looking at, we'll have to really repair it. Does that have a lifespan to it?
So I couldn't tell you what that is offhand, but we
Okay.
do have a whole plan for the airport, and I think it's updated about every 15 years, the plan is.
Okay.
And so I can't tell you offhand what they have in there for that. What we have, been trying to do over the years is to keep them properly maintained.
Right.
Yeah, but, that, I don't know, but I can make a note.
That'd just be a curiosity question, because at that point, couldn't we address maybe changing the configuration, making it smaller, whatever, to try to save money as we go forward, or are we stuck with this footprint?
Again, I do not know.
You know?
I don't know any of that.
I mean, if we look at, in its heyday, it was a great place, but as time has gone by, life flight no longer comes into it, things like that, there's.
They still come in.
They still come.
Yeah, but,
And there's been talk of expanding some of the services through the airport.
Really?
I think it's just gonna take some folks to kind of come together and make some things happen. But yeah, I would see the value in keeping it certainly the size that it is. And we
Okay.
do receive a lot of funding too.
It's just that you don't hear much about it, and with the dollar getting tighter and tighter, it's one of the things you want to look at. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. One of the things about Life Flight is we don't have Jet A at the airport. We only have the 100 low lead. That's all we have there. And again, Dave has to stay certified to do all that testing of fuel and everything. He's got to do that like every week. The airport is more complicated than certainly I ever thought it was. There's a lot to it, a lot of knowledge that a person needs. Anything else on Department 60? So Department 61 is the Caribou Trailer Park. So the trailer park is closed. So a lot of these budget lines aren't really needed anymore. We still have light poles up there. We also have to keep electricity there because that property has its own well. So that's the story with that. Any
Okay.
questions on Department 61, Trailer Park? So Department 65 is cemeteries, and this was something that I had alluded to at another meeting. We have not changed our stipends to the cemetery associations for their care of the cemeteries. Now, state statute dictates that the city maintains the graves of veterans. So this is something that the city does need to budget for, and these are paid out to the cemetery associations. The city doesn't own any cemeteries. However, as people move on and there's no longer people in an association to be able to look after the cemetery, unfortunately, the city has had to take over maintenance of a couple cemeteries, the Grimes Cemetery, Linden Cemetery. This year, and I didn't have a budget line for the Veterans Cemetery, but the finance department can add one. I just wanted to make sure it was in here, and this is the closest one I could find. So it's not really Veterans Memorial Fund. This would be for the Northern Maine Veterans Cemetery. So they have requested funding towards the cemetery, so I just used what came in their letter, which was $200. Any questions on Department 65? There's no revenue for that department either. So Department 70, Insurance and Retirement, one of the things that we did last year that we discussed was, so not every year would the city be asked to do a GASB 45 audit, but we've been budgeting for it every year. So what we did this year was we moved that into a reserve account so that when we are asked to do that audit, the city has the funds to do it, but we're not appropriating it every year thinking we might have to have it that year. This was just done as a cost-saving measure, so the city has the money available when we are asked to do that. New this year too is our 1% paid family medical leave. That's in this department. Compensated absences, we're asking for a larger budget this year because we've had so many retirements. So our budget line for this one, we've had money in reserve. We've just had a lot of retirements as our workforce is retiring. But the good news for the city is back in 2014, I think it was, or 15, the city decided to move to a new system, which is if you're hired after a certain date, you can't cash out like these compensated absences or for when you don't take sick time or vacation time during your career. It can be paid out at a prorated portion at the end. So you have people who were hired that never had access to that. You have people like myself who were hired and we're told you could have that, and then they took it away from us. So you have different people in different, depending on when they were hired and how much they had in their bank at the time. So the banks were all frozen, and that's through all the departments. So going forward, it won't be as big a burden because that was changed by a previous council. And there's no revenue for this department. Is there any questions on Department 70?
Yes, the two largest increases are obviously we've increased to 15,000 for the compensated absences, so we don't run short because we have to pay that out.
We have to pay that out for the ones that are on the old system.
And the 50,000 is for the paid medical leave. That's the brand new one.
Yep, that's the new one.
Okay.
So Department 75, which is contributions, the council has already voted not to fund any contributions for 2025. Department 80 is things like tax lien costs and also property tax abatements. We had fewer of those paid in 2024, but of course, at the Board of Assessors, do abatements, but also sometimes things come to the council to be abated if the city decides to keep a property, or if, like personal property, those are harder to collect, so sometimes we have to ask the city council to write those off as well. So just some general notes. In 2024, we started a capital project to replace computers to comply with the new Microsoft update. So in 2020, we did half last year at $6,000. So we are requesting $6,000 this year to do the rest of the computers. So the debt that the city had for the failed pellet boiler project, this is the final year for those payments. In 2022, the city took out a loan for capital projects. Many of those were at the fire department are not completed, as we applied for grant funds to complete the project so we could do a bigger project. And the amount to fund that debt annually is $200,000. And that is all of the departments that I have for you, and I thank you so much for your patience.
Just a quick,
All right, thanks, Penny.
one quick question, and this is also, while thinking about it, under general government, number 10, we don't have anything in here for, because you were talking about the, under emergency management, you had a line for some clothing. We don't have any line in here for, in Department 10 for general government for any clothing.
No, we've never had it in there.
I don't know what we put in there, recommend, you know, maybe we can get some of the employees a vest or something with the city logo, or a jacket, because we've discussed clothing a lot
Yep.
in the last, you know, all the departments, so
Right.
something I would recommend.
So a lot
to
of
be in there.
them, like for, I mean, the ones that I oversee, of course you have fire and police, because they go out into the field. Same thing, you
Yep.
know, code enforcement. We found that when you show up on a job site and you have a, you know, something that identifies that you're with the city, it makes it a lot easier getting out of the car. I mean, the other thing, like in code enforcement, we require that that city employees are wearing, you know, shoes with toe protection. There are many times that we step on nails and things at job sites. So.
Suggestion, that's all, while I was thinking of it.
All right, item 11 is reports and discussion by mayor and council members. Councilor Lovewell, did you have anything to share?
I don't. Thank you.
Just, we'll get together in the capital committee whenever it's convenient for all of us, and I want to thank the department heads for including their the monthly updates and reports, because I
Yep, we got a lot
kind of
of them.
advocated for that like a month or so ago to get those back in. I appreciate it. All the departments are sending that out. I enjoy that. And, thank you.
Counselor?
I'm all set.
Okay. Nothing for me either.
Hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I can hear you.
I should have looked louder. Okay, our next regular meetings are February 24th, March 10th, and March 17th. We do have some executive sessions on our agenda for this evening. What are the wishes of the council?
I move that we go into executive session. Let me see where we're going, this first one, under pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405.6.E for legal rights and duties.
Second.
Motion a second. Discussion? Not bad.
Do we have
Kelly?
them sign this one?
Aye.
For some reason,
Lovewell?
I have it in my
Smith?
packet.
All right.
Was it in
Terrio?
that packet too?
Watson?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And I thank those of you in the audience for joining us this evening.
Thank you also for your patience.
Everyone can turn off their microphones. Night, Corey.
Night, Corey.
It's possible.
I think we got it.
Okay, so
The 24th, our next council meeting, February, right? I will be in Florida, so can I zoom in?
I will check with Bob to see if we will have a Zoom.
no.
No, we don't have Zoom? We won't have Zoom in 2 weeks?
Well,
we
if
don't
it's
have-
just run through like my laptop on the table, but I don't think the system can handle it yet. So,
Yeah, we'll get another one.
signature.
What is that? That's an approved absence then? Is that how that works?
If I get approval, yeah, it'll be approved. Yeah, if I don't, then it won't be approved.
It just won't be on the big screen through the sound system.
I mean, I can zoom in through someone's phone.